That's my husband's hand on your belly! Funke's voice cut through the Sunday afternoon chaos of the Palm shopping mall in Lekki like a gunshot. Shoppers froze mid-step, phones came out, and within seconds, a crowd began to form. There, in front of the ShopRite entrance, stood her husband Tunde, with his arm wrapped around a young woman's swollen, pregnant belly, his lips pressed against her cheek. Welcome to Tales by AJ, where we bring you the most gripping stories of betrayal, revenge, and redemption. Thank you so much for your incredible support. You are the reason we keep telling these powerful tales. Before we dive in, drop a comment below and let us know where you're watching from. Now, let's get into this explosive story. The woman, girl really, she couldn't have been more than 25, stumbled backward, her eyes wide with shock. Tunde's face drained of color as he spun around to face his wife. "Funke, what are you doing here?" "What am I doing here?" Funke laughed, a sound that held no humor at all. She'd come to pick up groceries for dinner, never imagining she'd find her husband of 7 years playing happy family with another woman. "The question is, what are you doing here? With her?" The pregnant woman grabbed Tunde's arm. "Baby, who is this?" "Baby." Funke's voice rose higher. The crowd was growing larger now, phones recording every second. This would be all over Lagos social media by evening. "Did this girl just call you baby?" Tunde's jaw tightened. Instead of shame, Funke saw something else flash across his face. Irritation. As if she was the one causing the problem by existing in a public space. "Yetunde." "Wait in the car," he said quietly to the pregnant woman. "No," Funke stepped forward, her handbag swinging from her shoulder. "Yetunde, is it? Don't go anywhere. I want you to hear this. How far along are you?" The girl looked between Funke and Tunde, confusion and fear mixing on her pretty face. 4 months. 4 months. Funke repeated slowly. "And when exactly did my husband tell you he was married?" Silence. The girl's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "He didn't, did he?" Funke's laugh came again, sharper this time. "Let me guess. He told you he was single? Successful businessman, no attachments, ready to settle down?" "Funke, that's enough!" Tunde grabbed her arm, his grip tight enough to hurt. "We're not doing this here." "Oh, we're absolutely doing this here." Funke yanked her arm free. "You've been sneaking around for months and now I find you shopping for baby clothes with your pregnant side piece? We're definitely doing this here." An older woman in the crowd shouted, "Shame on you, sir. Married man with a pregnant girlfriend." "Men are trash," another voice called out. Tunde's face reddened with anger and embarrassment. "Everyone, mind your business. This is a private matter." "Private?" Funke's voice cracked. "You made it public the moment you brought her to a mall where anyone could see you." Yetunde started crying, her hands protectively covering her belly. "He told me he was divorced. He said, 'Yetunde, shut up,'" Tunde snapped. "Don't tell her to shut up," Funke shouted back. "Let her speak. Let everyone hear what lies you've been spreading." A security guard approached cautiously. "Excuse me, please. You're causing a disturbance." "A disturbance?" Funke turned on him. "This man is the disturbance. Married for 7 years, and now he's got a pregnant girlfriend." Tunde grabbed Funke's arm again, harder this time, and began dragging her away from the crowd. She fought against him, but he was stronger, pulling her past the shops, past the pointing fingers and recording phones, until they reached the parking lot. "Have you lost your mind?" he hissed, finally releasing her. "Have you?" Funke shot back, rubbing her arm where his fingers had dug in. "How long, Tunde? How long have you been seeing her? Does it matter?" "Does it matter?" Funke's voice rose to a scream. "Yes, it matters. I'm your wife." "You're my Barren wife," Tunde said coldly. The afternoon sun beat down on them, making the asphalt shimmer with heat. 7 years, Funke. 7 years of trying, praying, spending money on treatments, and nothing. Not even a miscarriage to give us hope. Just nothing. The word hit her like a slap. "So that's it? Because I can't get pregnant, I don't deserve loyalty? Respect?" "I deserve a son," Tunde said simply. "Every man deserves an heir. Yet Tunde is giving me what you couldn't." "And you believe that baby is yours?" Funke heard herself say the words before she'd even thought them through. Tunde's eyes narrowed. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means she's 25 and beautiful and pregnant, and you're a fool if you think you're the only man she's been with." His hand moved so fast Funke didn't see it coming. The slap sent her stumbling backward, her cheek exploding with pain. She caught herself against someone's car, tasting blood where her teeth had cut the inside of her mouth. "Don't you dare," Tunde's voice was low and dangerous now. "Don't you dare question my child's paternity because you're jealous and bitter." Funke straightened slowly, her hand pressed against her burning cheek. In 7 years of marriage, he'd never hit her, not once. But apparently defending his mistress was worth breaking that boundary. "I want you out of my house," Tunde continued. "Tonight, pack your things and go back to whatever village you crawled out of." "Your house?" Funke's voice was quiet now, deadly quiet. "Tunde, do you remember where you were when I met you? Don't start. Do you remember?" she pressed. "Yaba Market, selling second-hand clothes, living in a single room with no toilet, bathing from a bucket. Do you remember?" Tunde's face hardened. "I built myself up. I worked hard." "With whose money?" Funke interrupted. "Who gave you the capital for your first real shop? Who connected you to the importers? Who—" "I don't care what you think you did," Tunde cut her off. "That house is in my name. The business is in my name. Everything is mine, and you're leaving tonight." He turned and walked back toward the mall, leaving her standing in the parking lot with her face throbbing and her heart shattered into pieces. But as Funke watched him go, something shifted inside her. The pain was still there, sharp and fresh, but underneath it, something else was growing, something cold and calculating. Tunde thought he'd built his empire alone. He'd forgotten, or chosen to forget, the price she'd paid to make him successful, the inheritance she'd signed over. The land her father had left her that she'd sold to fund his big break. The connections she'd used, burning bridges with her own family to help him climb. He wanted to throw her out with nothing? Fine. But she'd make sure he lost everything first. The revenge forming in Funke's mind wasn't going to be quiet or dignified. It was going to be loud, public, and absolutely devastating. If Tunde wanted war, she'd give him a war that would leave him begging for mercy. And by the time she was done, he'd wish he'd never heard the name Yetunde, never thrown away the woman who'd sacrificed her entire future to build his. What would you do if your husband humiliated you in public and hit you for defending yourself? Would you walk away or plan your revenge? Hit that like button if you're already invested in Funke's story, and drop a comment below. I need to know if you're Team Funke. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications because next chapter is where things get dangerous. Trust me, you won't believe what Funke does next. Funke sat in her car in the parking lot for 30 minutes, watching her hands shake on the steering wheel. Her cheek still burned where Tunde had slapped her, and she could see the red mark forming in the rearview mirror. In 7 years, he'd never raised his hand to her, but defending his pregnant mistress had been worth it to him. Worth more than their marriage vows, worth more than everything she'd sacrificed. Her phone buzzed. A message from her mother-in-law, Mama Tunde. "I'm at your house. Tunde called me. Pack your things quietly and leave with dignity. Don't embarrass the family more than you already have." Funke's grip tightened on the phone, so they'd already planned this. Tunde hadn't just stumbled into this affair. He'd orchestrated her removal. The shopping trip wasn't an accident. He'd wanted her to find out this way. Public humiliation to justify throwing her out. She started the car and drove through Lagos traffic, her mind racing faster than the vehicles around her. Victoria Island to Lekki Phase 1, where their 4-bedroom house stood, the house she'd helped buy with money from selling her late father's land in Ibadan. When she pulled into the compound, Mama Tunde was standing in the doorway wearing full traditional attire, her arms crossed like a guard. "So you finally decided to come home," the older woman said as Funke stepped out of the car. "This is my home," Funke replied quietly. "Not anymore." Mama Tunde moved aside, and Funke saw suitcases, her suitcases, already packed and sitting in the entryway. "I took the liberty of packing for you. Your clothes, your toiletries, your shoes, everything you came into this marriage with." Funke walked past her into the house. The living room looked the same. Cream leather sofas, the 75-inch television, the expensive artwork on the walls, all bought with the money from her sacrifice. "Where's my jewelry?" Funke asked. "Jewelry belongs to the house," Mama Tunde said firmly. "My son bought those pieces. They stay." "My laptop?" "Gift from my son. It stays." "The car keys?" "The cars are registered in Tunde's name. You can call a taxi." Funke felt something crack inside her chest. They'd thought of everything. They were stripping her of 7 years of her life and sending her out with nothing but the clothes she'd owned as a 23-year-old bride. "I have documents in the study," Funke said, moving toward the hallway. Mama Tunde blocked her path. "The study is locked. Tunde said you're not allowed in there." "Those are my personal papers. Nothing in this house is personal to you anymore," Mama Tunde interrupted. "You're a guest who overstayed her welcome. Now it's time to go." Funke stared at the woman she'd served for 7 years. She'd cooked her favorite meals when she visited. She'd sent money to her other children. She'd respected her and called her mama with genuine affection. And this was how it ended, being physically blocked from her own home. "I need to use the bathroom," Funke said. Mama Tunde's eyes narrowed with suspicion. "Make it quick." Funke walked to the guest bathroom, locked the door, and pulled out her phone. Her hands were steadier now. The shock was wearing off, replaced by something sharper, more focused. She opened her email and scrolled through old messages until she found what she was looking for, a thread from 5 years ago with a lawyer named Barrister Okonkwo. He'd handled some property documentation for them, and more importantly, he'd asked her privately if she wanted certain assets registered in her name. She'd said no then, trusting Tunde completely. What a fool she'd been. Funke typed quickly. "Barrister Okonkwo, this is Funke Adeleke. I need urgent legal consultation regarding marital assets and property rights. Can we meet tomorrow morning? This is an emergency." She hit send, then opened another contact. "Ngozi?" Her former classmate from university who worked as an investigative journalist for Punch newspaper. "Ngozi, I have a story for you. Corporate fraud, identity theft, and a very interesting business registration that might shock Lagos high society. Are you still interested in exposing corrupt businessmen?" The reply came within seconds. "Always. Call me." Funke flushed the toilet for effect and washed her hands, studying her reflection. Her eyes were red but clear. The scared, begging woman from the parking lot was gone. In her place stood someone who remembered exactly who she'd been before Tunde, smart, resourceful, and connected to people he'd long forgotten about. When she emerged, Mama Tunde was waiting impatiently. "Come, let's go. Tunde said to have you out before he returns with Yetunde." "He's bringing her here? Today?" "She's carrying his child. She belongs here more than you do." The words were designed to hurt, and they succeeded. But Funke didn't let it show on her face. Instead, she walked to her suitcases and pulled out her phone charger from the side pocket. "Wait, that's not yours," Mama Tunde started. "I bought this myself at ShopRite 6 months ago," Funke said calmly. "I have the receipt in my email if you'd like to see it." Mama Tunde scowled but said nothing. Funke took one last look around the house, the dining area where she'd served countless meals, the kitchen where she'd learned to cook Tunde's favorite soups, the staircase leading to the bedroom where she'd cried herself to sleep after every negative pregnancy test. 7 years of her life, reduced to 2 suitcases. "I'll call an Uber," Funke said quietly. "Good." "And Funke?" Mama Tunde's voice stopped her at the door. "Don't think about making trouble. My son has lawyers, connections, and money. You have nothing. If you try to fight this, you'll only embarrass yourself and your family." Funke smiled, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You're right, Mama. I have nothing. Thank you for reminding me." She walked out into the late afternoon heat and stood by the gate with her suitcases, waiting for the Uber. Neighbors peeked through their windows, curtains twitching. They'd all heard by now. Lagos gossip traveled faster than light. Her phone buzzed. The lawyer had responded, "My office, 9 a.m. tomorrow. Bring any documentation you have." Another buzz. "Ngozi, meet me at Terraculture tonight, 7 p.m. Bring everything you know about his business." Funke looked back at the house one more time. Through the window, she could see Mama Tunde on the phone, probably calling Tunde to report mission accomplished. They thought they'd won. They thought she was broken, defeated, cast out with nothing. But they'd made a critical mistake. They'd forgotten what she'd had before Tunde. Her father had been a successful businessman before he died, leaving her properties and connections across western Nigeria. She'd given it all up for love, signing everything over to fund Tunde's dreams. What they didn't know was that some of those connections still remembered her, still owed her favors, still respected her father's name. And what they definitely didn't know was that Funke had kept copies of everything. Every transaction, every document, every shady deal Tunde had made to build his empire. She'd hidden them in a safe deposit box at the bank. Insurance she'd prayed she'd never need. The Uber pulled up, a beat-up Honda that was a far cry from the Range Rover she'd been driving that morning. As the driver loaded her suitcases into the trunk, Funke's phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello?" "Funke, it's me." The voice was male, familiar, but she couldn't place it immediately. "I heard what happened. I'm so sorry." "Who is this?" "It's Femi, from university. Your friend Ngozi gave me your number. She said you might need a place to stay." Femi. The memory hit her like a wave. Her ex-boyfriend from university, the one she'd left to marry Tunde. He'd been devastated, had told her she was making a mistake, that Tunde was using her. He'd been right. I have a guest room, Femi continued. It's yours for as long as you need. No strings attached. I can't stand the thought of you in a hotel after what they did to you. Funke felt tears threatening but pushed them back. Thank you, Femi, but I'll be okay. At least let me help you. I have connections too. Lawyers, business people. If you want to fight back, I'll think about it, Funke said softly. Can I call you tomorrow? Anytime. Day or night. I mean it, Funke. What he did to you? It's not right. She hung up and climbed into the Uber, giving the driver the address of a mid-range hotel in Ikeja. As they pulled away from the house, Funke saw a black Mercedes pull in, Tunde's car. And in the passenger seat, clearly visible, was Yetunde with her pregnant belly and her designer handbag and her smug smile. The girl had no idea what she'd walked into. She thought she'd won the prize, a rich man, a big house, a comfortable life. She didn't know that the same woman who'd built that man from nothing could tear him down even faster. And Funke planned to do exactly that, piece by piece, until Tunde was back in that single room in Yaba Market, wondering how he'd lost everything. The revenge wouldn't be quick. It would be surgical, calculated, and absolutely merciless. And it started tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. in Barrister Okonkwo's office. Do you think Funke should destroy Tunde completely or show him mercy? Drop a comment and let me know whose side you're on. If you're rooting for Funke's comeback, smash that like button and subscribe. The hotel room in Ikeja was small, nothing like the spacious bedroom Funke had woken up in that morning. The air conditioner rattled, the walls were thin enough to hear neighbors arguing, and the mattress sagged in the middle. She sat on the edge of the bed staring at her 2 suitcases and allowed herself exactly 5 minutes to cry. When the 5 minutes were up, she wiped her face, opened her laptop, the one thing Mama Tunde hadn't thought to confiscate from her car, and got to work. First, she logged into the email account Tunde didn't know about, the one she'd created 3 years ago when she'd first started noticing the late-night phone calls and suspicious business trips. She'd told herself she was being paranoid, that she was just insecure because of the fertility issues. But her instincts had been right, and she'd started keeping records, bank statements showing mysterious transfers, screenshots of text messages she'd glimpsed on his phone, photos of receipts from expensive restaurants and hotels, names of business partners who didn't exist when she'd tried to verify them. Funke had been preparing for betrayal without even realizing it. Her phone alarm buzzed, 6:30 p.m. She had 30 minutes before meeting Ngozi at Terra Culture. She changed into a simple dress, covered the mark on her cheek with makeup, and called another Uber. Lagos traffic was its usual nightmare, but she made it to the cultural center by 7:15 p.m. Ngozi was waiting at a corner table, her natural hair pulled back in a head wrap, her journalist notebook already open. "Funke!" Ngozi stood and hugged her tightly. "I've been hearing things all afternoon. The whole of Lagos is talking about what happened at the Palms." "Let them talk," Funke said, sitting down. She ordered jollof rice and plantain, realizing she hadn't eaten since breakfast. Ngozi leaned forward, her eyes sharp with professional interest. "So tell me everything, and I mean everything." For the next hour, Funke laid it all out. The 7-year marriage, the infertility struggles, finding Tunde with his pregnant mistress, being thrown out of her own home. But then she got to the part Ngozi really wanted to hear, the business deals. "Tunde's company is called Adeleke Imports and Exports," Funke began. "It's registered as a limited liability company, but the interesting thing is how it got started." Ngozi's pen moved rapidly across her notebook. "Go on." 12 years ago, I inherited land from my father in Ibadan, 3 plots in Bodija, worth about 15 million naira even back then. Tunde convinced me to sell them to fund his business expansion. I did. I signed everything over to him. Do you have proof of the sale? Copies of everything. The land documents were in my father's name, then transferred to me, then sold with the proceeds going directly into Tunde's business account. Funke pulled out her phone and showed Ngozi the scanned documents she'd saved in the cloud. But here's the interesting part. The business registration lists Tunde as the sole founder and owner. My contribution isn't mentioned anywhere. Ngozi's eyes widened. "That's fraud." "That's just the beginning," Funke continued. 2 years later, Tunde started getting contracts with major companies. Shell, Total, some government ministries. Big contracts worth millions. But he didn't have the credentials or connections for those kinds of deals. So how did he get them? Through my uncle, Chief Adeyemi. He's a retired permanent secretary with connections across the oil and gas industry. I begged my uncle for introductions, and he made them happen because he loved my father and trusted me. Those introductions turned into contracts that built Tunde's entire empire. Ngozi stopped writing and looked up. Can your uncle confirm this? He can, but there's a problem. 3 years ago, Tunde had a business dispute with my uncle over a commission. It got ugly, and Tunde banned me from speaking to him. I haven't talked to Uncle Adeyemi since then. But he'd remember helping you? He'd remember everything, Funke said firmly. My uncle doesn't forget debts or betrayals. Ngozi sat back, her mind clearly working through the angles. This is good, Funke. This is really good. But I need more. Financial irregularities, tax issues, anything that shows he built his business on fraud or deception. Funke smiled for the first time that day. I have bank statements showing he's been moving money to offshore accounts, and I have emails between him and his accountant discussing how to hide income from tax authorities. You have access to his emails? I used to manage his calendar and correspondence when the business was smaller. He never changed the passwords. Funke pulled up another file on her phone. And there's something else. 6 months ago, Tunde won a government contract for supplying generators to public schools. The contract was worth 50 million naira. I remember that story, Ngozi said. It was in all the papers. The generators were never delivered. The schools are still waiting, but the money was paid up front. And it's sitting in Tunde's account. Ngozi's eyes gleamed. That's embezzlement of public funds. That's a criminal case, not just a civil matter. I have the contract documents and the bank statements showing the payment, Funke said. And I have emails where Tunde tells his accountant to sit on the generator deal until the heat dies down. Funke, this could destroy him, Ngozi said quietly. Are you sure you want to go this route? Once I publish this, there's no going back. He'll face criminal charges. He could go to prison. Funke thought about Tunde's hand on Yetunde's pregnant belly, his slap across her face. Mama Tunde packing her belongings like she was nothing. 7 years of love and sacrifice tossed aside like garbage. I'm sure, she said. Publish everything. I'll need to verify everything first. But if this all checks out, I can have a story ready in 3 days. Front page. Ngozi reached across the table and squeezed Funke's hand. You're brave. Not many women would fight back like this. I'm not brave, Funke said. I'm angry. There's a difference. They finished dinner, and Ngozi promised to start making calls to her editor and the newspaper's legal team. As Funke stood to leave, Ngozi grabbed her arm. One more thing. Be careful. Men like Tunde don't go down quietly. When he finds out what you're doing, he'll fight dirty. Let him, Funke said. I've got nothing left to lose. Back at the hotel, Funke set her alarm for 6 a.m. She needed to be sharp for her meeting with Barrister Okonkwo, but sleep wouldn't come. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Tunde's face, heard his words. You're my Barren wife. At 2 a.m., her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I know what you're planning. Stop now or you'll regret it. This is your only warning. Funke stared at the message, her heart pounding. How did they know already? Had Ngozi been followed? Had someone hacked her phone? Another message came through, this time with a photo attached. It was a picture of her parents' grave in Ibadan. Fresh flowers had been placed on the tombstones, but the message was clear. They knew where her family was buried. They could get to anyone, anywhere. Funke's hands shook as she typed back. Touch my family's grave again, and I'll make sure Tunde loses everything. Try me. The response came immediately. You've already lost everything. Be smart. Disappear quietly, or things will get much worse. Funke deleted the messages and turned off her phone. She couldn't afford to be scared now. Fear was what they wanted. Fear would make her back down, accept her fate, disappear like they demanded. But Funke had spent 7 years being afraid. Afraid she couldn't give Tunde a child. Afraid he'd leave her. Afraid she wasn't enough. She was done being afraid. Tomorrow morning, she'd meet with the lawyer and start the legal process of reclaiming what was hers. Tomorrow afternoon, she'd visit her uncle Adeyemi and beg for his help one more time. And in 3 days, when Ngozi's story hit the front page of Punch newspaper, all of Lagos would know the truth about Tunde Adeleke. They wanted her to disappear? Fine. She'd disappear right after she burned Tunde's entire world to the ground. Outside her window, Lagos hummed with its usual late-night energy, generators roaring, night markets bustling, life continuing regardless of individual pain. Funke watched the city lights and made herself a promise. By the time she was done, Tunde would be begging her for mercy, and she wouldn't give him a drop of it. Funke woke to the sound of her phone vibrating across the nightstand. 6 a.m. The Lagos morning was already hot. The sun barely up, but the city fully awake with the sound of generators, car horns, and street vendors shouting their wares. She showered quickly, dressed in a navy blue pencil skirt and white blouse, professional armor for the battle ahead, and ordered an Uber to Victoria Island, where Barrister Okonkwo's office was located. The traffic was lighter than usual, and she arrived at the law firm by 8:45 a.m. The building was modest but respectable, sandwiched between a bank and a printing shop. The receptionist, a young woman with perfectly drawn eyebrows, looked up from her computer. "Good morning. I'm here to see Barrister Okonkwo. I have a 9 a.m. appointment. Your name, ma?" "Funke Adelica." The receptionist's eyes widened slightly. The gossip had clearly spread even here. "Please have a seat. He'll be with you shortly." Funke sat in the small waiting area, her folder of documents clutched on her lap. Other clients came and went, a man arguing about a land dispute, a woman crying about a custody battle. Everyone here was fighting for something. "Mrs. Adelica?" A tall man in his 50s emerged from one of the offices, his gray suit perfectly pressed, his glasses perched on his nose. "Please, come in." Barrister Okonkwo's office was lined with law books and case files stacked high on every surface. He gestured to a chair across from his desk and settled into his own seat with the air of someone who'd heard every story imaginable. "So," he began, folding his hands on the desk, "tell me what happened." Funke took a deep breath and told him everything. The affair, the pregnancy, being thrown out, the threats. When she finished, she opened her folder and spread the documents across his desk. "This is the land sale from my inheritance. This is the business registration showing Tunde as sole owner. These are bank statements showing the transfers. And this," she pulled out a thick envelope, "is a sworn affidavit from the estate lawyer who handled my father's will, confirming that I was the sole beneficiary of those properties." Barrister Okonkwo studied each document carefully, his face growing more serious with each page. After 20 minutes of silence broken only by the rustling of paper, he looked up. "Mrs. Adelica, do you understand what you're sitting on here? Evidence of fraud? More than that. You have grounds for claiming significant marital assets, possibly even majority ownership of the business itself. If we can prove that your inherited funds were the seed capital that started everything, and that your family connections secured the contracts that grew the business, you have a very strong case." Funke felt her heart race. "How strong?" "Strong enough that if we pursue this aggressively, your husband could lose control of his entire company. We're talking about unwinding business registrations, forensic accounting, possibly even criminal charges for fraud and misrepresentation." "Good," Funke said firmly. "That's exactly what I want." Barrister Okonkwo leaned back in his chair, studying her over his glasses. "Mrs. Adelica, I have to ask, are you prepared for the fight this will start? Your husband will hire the best lawyers money can buy. They'll dig into your past, question your character, make you look bad in court. This could take years." "I have time," Funke replied. "What I don't have is mercy left for him." The lawyer nodded slowly. "Then let's get started. I'll need you to sign a retainer agreement. My fee is—" "Whatever it costs," Funke interrupted. "I have some money saved separately that he doesn't know about. About 2 million naira. Is that enough to start?" "More than enough. But Mrs. Adelica, there's something else you should know. Cases like this often get messy in other ways. Your husband might try to intimidate you, turn your friends against you, freeze your bank accounts if your names are on them jointly." Funke thought about the threatening text messages from last night. "He's already started. Then you need protection. Do you have somewhere safe to stay?" "A hotel for now." "Not good enough. Hotels keep records. If your husband wants to find you, he will." Barrister Okonkwo scribbled something on a notepad and handed it to her. "This is my sister's number. She runs a women's shelter in Surulere. Discreet, secure, no questions asked. Tell her I sent you." Funke took the paper, grateful. "Thank you. One more thing," the lawyer said, his tone serious. "If you're really committed to this path, you need to move fast and hit hard. File for divorce immediately. File for asset freeze. Get ahead of whatever story his lawyers will spin. Make the first strike count. How long will that take? If you can get me a signed statement from your uncle about his role in securing those contracts, I can have papers filed by end of business today. The asset freeze might take 48 hours. Funke stood, feeling lighter than she had in days. "I'll get you that statement." She left the lawyer's office and immediately called another Uber, this time heading to Ikoyi, where Uncle Adeyemi lived in a sprawling compound that spoke of old money and political connections. She hadn't been here in 3 years, not since Tunde had forbidden her from contacting her family over the commission dispute. The gateman recognized her immediately. "Madam Funke! Ah, it's been so long! Is Uncle home?" "Yes, Ma, but Madam, he's been very sick. He had a stroke 6 months ago. The news hit Funke like cold water. A stroke? Why didn't anyone tell me? We tried to reach you, Ma, but your husband said you didn't want to be disturbed with family matters. Rage burned through Funke's chest. Tunde had kept her uncle's illness from her, had isolated her so completely that she'd missed her own uncle's medical emergency. Please, let me in, she said quietly. The compound looked the same. Manicured lawns, the fountain in the center, the main house painted a dignified cream color. But when the door opened and her aunt appeared, Funke saw how much had changed. Funke? Her Aunt Bimpy looked shocked, then angry. You have the nerve to show your face here after 3 years? Auntie, please, I didn't know Uncle was sick. Tunde never told me. Tunde told us you didn't want anything to do with us anymore, that we were too local for your new rich lifestyle. Aunt Bimpy's voice was bitter. Your uncle called you 20 times when he was in the hospital. You never answered. I never got any calls, Funke insisted, pulling out her phone. Look at my call log. There's nothing from Uncle. Her aunt grabbed the phone and scrolled through, her expression shifting from anger to confusion to understanding. He blocked the number. Yes, Funke said simply. He isolated me from everyone who could help me, and now I need to make him pay for it. Something in Funke's voice must have convinced her aunt because the older woman's expression softened. Come inside. Your uncle will want to see you. Chief Adeyemi was in a wheelchair in the sitting room, his left side visibly weakened by the stroke, but his eyes were still sharp and intelligent. When he saw Funke, tears rolled down his cheeks. My daughter, he said, his speech slightly slurred but understandable. I thought you'd forgotten us. Funke knelt beside his wheelchair and took his hand. Never, Uncle. I'm so sorry. I should have fought harder to stay in touch. That man, Uncle Adeyemi said, anger flashing in his eyes. I told you he was trouble. I told you he was using you. You were right, Funke admitted, about everything, and now I need your help one more time. She explained everything, the affair, the eviction, the lawyer, the evidence she was gathering. When she finished, Uncle Adeyemi was nodding slowly. What do you need from me? A sworn statement detailing every introduction you made for Tunde, every contract you helped him secure, every connection you provided that built his business. I need it in writing, signed and notarized. You'll have it by this evening, Uncle Adeyemi promised. That boy took advantage of my niece and then tried to cut her off from her family. He deserves everything coming to him. Aunt Bimpy brought out a notary public who lived in the next compound, and within 2 hours, Funke had a detailed, legally binding statement from her uncle outlining his role in Tunde's business success. Every contract, every introduction, every favor, all documented and signed. As Funke prepared to leave, Uncle Adeyemi grabbed her hand with his good arm. Funke, be careful. Men like Tunde don't lose gracefully. When he realizes what you're doing, he'll try to destroy you. Let him try, Funke said. I've already lost everything that mattered. What else can he take from me? Her phone buzzed as she walked to the gate. A message from Ngozi. Story verified and approved. Publishing tomorrow morning. Front page. Hope you're ready for this. Another message came right after, this time from Barrister Okonkwo. Papers filed. Asset freeze request submitted to the court. Your husband will be served by 5 p.m. today. Funke stood in the compound where she'd spent so many happy childhood days, watching the sun climb higher in the Lagos sky. By this time tomorrow, Tunde's world would start crumbling. His bank accounts would be frozen. His business would be under investigation. His reputation would be shredded across every newspaper in Nigeria. And Yetunde, his pregnant mistress who thought she'd won the prize, would wake up to realize she'd tied herself to a sinking ship. The revenge was no longer just a plan in Funke's mind. It was real, moving forward with the weight of legal authority and public exposure behind it. Tunde had thrown her out thinking she was powerless. He'd forgotten the cardinal rule her father had taught her as a child. The most dangerous person in a fight is the one who has nothing left to lose. Funke had nothing left to lose, and that made her absolutely unstoppable. At exactly 5:47 p.m., Funke's phone rang. Unknown number. She answered, already knowing who it would be. What have you done? Tunde's voice exploded through the speaker, raw with panic and fury. The court just served me papers. Asset freeze? Divorce? Fraud investigation? Have you lost your mind? Funke sat on the bed in her hotel room, her voice calm and cold. No, Tunde, I finally found it. You can't do this. That business is mine. I built it from nothing. From nothing, Funke laughed, a sound sharp as broken glass. You built it from my inheritance, my family connections, my sacrifice. The court will decide who owns what. I'll fight this, Tunde threatened. I have the best lawyers in Lagos. You'll be left with nothing, again. Then we'll both have nothing, Funke replied. The difference is, I'm used to it. You're not. She hung up before he could respond and blocked the number. Her hands were steady. Her heart was calm. For the first time in days, she felt like herself again, not the desperate woman begging in a parking lot, but the strong daughter of a businessman who'd taught her that respect was earned, not given. The next morning, Funke woke to 17 missed calls and dozens of text messages. She ignored them all and dressed carefully. Another professional outfit, makeup applied with precision. Today was the day Ngozi's article would hit the front page. She bought a copy of Punch newspaper from a vendor outside the hotel. There it was, above the fold, with a headline that made her catch her breath. Lagos businessman Tunde Adeleke accused of fraud. Wife reveals he built empire on her inheritance and family connections. Below the headline was a photo of Tunde at a recent business event, smiling confidently in his expensive suit. The article was devastating, 3 full pages detailing everything. The land inheritance he'd claimed as his own capital, Uncle Adeyemi's connections that had secured the major contracts, the offshore accounts, the missing government generators, the pregnant mistress. Ngozi had done her job perfectly. Every claim was backed by documentation, every quote verified by sources. The story didn't just expose Tunde's fraud, it destroyed his reputation completely. By 9 a.m., the story had exploded across social media. #Tunde Adeleke Exposed was trending on Twitter. Instagram was flooded with memes and angry comments. Radio stations were discussing it on their morning shows. The Lagos business community was in an uproar. Funke's phone rang. Barrister Okonkwo. "Have you seen the news?" he asked, barely containing his excitement. "I'm reading it now." "Mrs. Adeleke, this changes everything. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission just called me. They want to open a formal investigation based on the newspaper report. And 3 of your husband's business partners have already contacted my office asking how they can recover their investments." His partners are turning on him? Like rats leaving a sinking ship. The generator contract story was the final straw. Nobody wants to be associated with someone who embezzled public funds meant for school children. Funke felt a grim satisfaction. What happens next? Court hearing for the asset freeze is tomorrow at 10 a.m. Based on this publicity, I'd say we have a 90% chance of success. Your husband's accounts will be frozen until the fraud investigation is complete. After hanging up with the lawyer, Funke's phone rang again. This time it was a number she recognized, Femi, her ex-boyfriend from university. "Funke, I just read the newspaper. Are you okay?" "I'm fine," she said. "Better than fine." "Actually." "I'm proud of you," Femi said quietly. "Standing up for yourself like this takes courage. Listen, I meant what I said about the guest room, and I spoke to some business contacts. When this is all over and you get what's rightfully yours, I can connect you with people who'll help you start fresh." Funke felt unexpected tears prick her eyes. "Thank you, Femi. That means more than you know. You deserve better than what he gave you. I always knew that." As she ended the call, another message came through, this time from Yetunde, the pregnant mistress. Funke almost deleted it without reading, but curiosity won. "Please, we need to talk. I didn't know about everything. He lied to me too. I'm scared." Funke stared at the message for a long moment. Part of her wanted to ignore it, to let Yetunde suffer the consequences of stealing another woman's husband. But another part of her, the part that remembered being 25 and naive, felt a flicker of sympathy. She texted back, "Meet me at Terra Culture, 2 p.m., come alone." At exactly 2 p.m., Funke sat at the same table where she'd met Ngozi 3 days ago. Yetunde arrived 10 minutes later, her pregnant belly preceding her, her face puffy from crying, her designer clothes wrinkled. "Thank you for meeting me," Yetunde said, sitting down heavily. She looked younger up close, barely out of her early 20s, wearing too much makeup to hide her fear. "Talk," Funke said simply. "I didn't know he was married," Yetunde began, her voice breaking. "He told me he was divorced. He showed me papers. I thought they were real. He said his ex-wife was crazy and vindictive, that she'd tried to destroy his business out of spite." "And you believed him?" "I'm 24. Yetunde said desperately. "I work at a salon in Surulere. When a rich, handsome man like Tunde started coming in and paying attention to me, I thought it was my chance for a better life." "So you got pregnant on purpose?" Yetunde's silence was answer enough. "I thought if I gave him a child, he'd marry me," she finally admitted. "He kept saying he wanted a son. I thought I was securing my future." And now? Now his accounts are frozen. He's being investigated for fraud. Everyone's calling him a criminal, and I'm 4 months pregnant with nowhere to go. Yetunde wiped her eyes. My family disowned me when they found out I was pregnant for a married man. I quit my job at the salon because Tunde said I didn't need to work anymore. I have nothing. Funke studied the younger woman, seeing her own reflection from years ago. A girl who'd sacrificed everything for a man who wasn't worth it. That baby, Funke said quietly. Are you sure it's his? Yetunde's face crumpled completely. No, she whispered. There was someone else, my ex-boyfriend. We were together around the same time, but Tunde has money, so I told him it was his. The revelation should have made Funke angry, but instead she felt only a weary sadness. Does Tunde know? No, and now I'm terrified. If he finds out, he'll throw me out too, and if the baby comes and doesn't look like him? Funke leaned back in her chair, thinking. Tunde had destroyed her life over a child that probably wasn't even his. The irony was almost poetic. Here's what you're going to do, Funke said firmly. You're going to tell Tunde the truth about the baby's paternity. Today. He'll kill me. He won't. He's too busy trying to save himself from prison. And when he throws you out, because he will, you're going to go back to your family, beg their forgiveness, and figure out your life. But I have nowhere. That's not my problem, Funke interrupted. You made your choices. Now live with them. But I'll give you one piece of advice. The next time you meet a man who seems too good to be true, remember this moment. Remember what happens when you build your future on lies. Yetunde stood up, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry. For everything. I know it doesn't change anything, but I'm sorry. Save your apologies, Funke said. Just don't make the same mistakes I did. Don't trust a man more than you trust yourself. After Yetunde left, Funke sat alone with her jollof rice, watching the Lagos afternoon unfold outside the restaurant windows. Her phone buzzed with another message from Barrister Okonkwo. Just got word from the court. Asset freeze approved. All of your husband's accounts are now frozen pending the fraud investigation. He can't access a single naira. Funke smiled. Somewhere in Lagos, Tunde was realizing that the empire he'd built on her sacrifice had just collapsed. His pregnant mistress was probably confessing that the baby wasn't his. His business partners were abandoning him. His reputation was destroyed. His accounts were frozen. He'd thrown her out with nothing, thinking she was powerless. Now he had nothing too. The revenge was complete. Not violent, not bloody, just cold, legal, and absolutely devastating. Funke paid for her meal and walked out into the Lagos heat, feeling lighter than she had in years. Tomorrow she'd start rebuilding her life. She'd use her share of the marital assets, once the court ruling came through, to start her own business. She'd reconnect with her family. She'd remember who she'd been before Tunde had made her small and scared. But today, she'd simply enjoy the knowledge that justice, however delayed, had finally arrived. And somewhere in their former home, Tunde was learning the hardest lesson of his life. The woman you underestimate is often the one who destroys you. Wow, what a journey! Did Funke get the revenge she deserved, or should she have done more? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear everything you're thinking. If this story had you on the edge of your seat, smash that like button and subscribe to Tales by AJ for more powerful stories of betrayal, revenge, and redemption. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our next gripping tale. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, never underestimate a woman who has nothing left to lose. Until next time, stay blessed.